Hello, everyone. How's everybody doing? It's Ryan here from RyansFortress and Megahit Media, back for episode number 5 of the Megahit Podcast. We are now at the 5th episode, and honestly, I feel like this is going to be one of probably the most fun episodes in terms of the topics. So this should be quite a bit of fun, but we'll see what happens. So yeah, we are back. Number 5, Megahit Podcast. Keeping up the streaks of actually posting on time. It's going pretty well. I'm kind of surprised, but we are getting there. We are getting there, and yeah. So not a lot to talk about in this introduction. Not a ton to discuss here, but I will mention this though, because this is something that I just found out literally like less than an hour ago. So I mentioned in the last podcast, I mentioned last week that I found while just browsing the Switch Online tab on the Switch 2, I noticed that the thing with the Zelda upgrade packs, and that you could get them for free if you have the expansion pack. Which is just something I didn't even notice. And that kind of thing literally just kind of happened again. So I didn't really know what to play today. Like literally an hour ago, I was like, I kind of want to just play a random game before I start recording. And I decided to dig out from my, I don't know what you're going to call it, virtual game card cemetery, graveyard. That actually sounds better. Virtual game card graveyard. I like that. I dug out Nintendo Switch Sports just to play a little bit of golf. I never actually played golf. I haven't actually played the game pretty much since the game like came out. Like I don't think I've played it since 2022, which is kind of telling on how that game turned out. But what was weird was that the first thing the game greeted me with was a notification that said that basketball was now available in the game. And by the way, I'm sorry if you can hear this like creaking. The chair I'm sitting in creaks a lot. So just, I don't know if you can hear it, but I will mention that. But anyway, I was just so confused, but also like, how oblivious am I? Because I was like, since when was basketball in Switch Sports? I'm gonna be honest, I either like it happened, I knew it happened, and then I just didn't care because I still wasn't playing the game. Like I just didn't care, and it kind of just flew away from my brain, or I just never realized it. I honestly don't know. So yeah. If you haven't played that game since 2022, yeah, basketball is in the game. I did not play basketball, but but yeah. So that was kind of an interesting thing for me to notice. So yeah. So again, not really a ton for this introduction. That's kind of the main thing there was to talk about. But yeah. So got quite a bit of news, but before that, got to talk about those aforementioned amazing topics that we're going to be discussing today. I think these are going to be some interesting ones. I have some thoughts on these. So starting with our movie segment, I want to talk about Sony Animation and how much they are destroying Disney in terms of the quality of their movies. How much I love their movies. The past this past decade, they have made, I mean, honestly, like every single one of their movies from this decade, the 2020s so far, almost all of them are like now some of my favorite animated movies like ever. They're just so good. They're just pumping out movies like it's nothing. And I want to kind of talk about that. Let's see, video game segment. This is kind of an interesting one. This is kind of going along with the rumors that have kind of started. The Mario 40th anniversary stuff is kind of, in the air because I think that's like next I think it's next week is when the would have been when the Mario 35th anniversary direct was 5 years ago. So that's starting to ramp up, of course, and of course just September in general. It's Mario's anniversary month. So I'm going to be talking about my five hopes and predictions, kind of a mix of what kind of stuff will be announced in the next month or so relating to Mario, whether it's branded as 40th anniversary or not, whether it's in its own direct or it's in the next full-on Nintendo Direct. These are kind of my hopes and predictions of what kind of Mario stuff we could get. So that's our video game segment, and then our sports segment. I want to talk a little bit about the geographical realignment that's been talked about. I mentioned it very briefly in the last episode, but I wanted to talk a little bit more in depth about it now and really just give my thoughts on it a bit more. So yeah, that is what we are talking about today. All right, you probably heard that. I needed to move my chair a little bit. All right. So yeah. By the way, one real quick before we get into the news, I do want to mention a couple things about just how the podcast is, the structure of it and stuff. So I added the podcast to Apple Podcasts and Amazon, but I am still trying to figure out how those two work, and I'm having problems with it. So for now, I think this is going to be the easiest route for now, especially since this is very early into just how long I've been doing this. So for now, new episodes are only coming out on YouTube and on Spotify, and that's going to be it for now. I definitely want to change that later, but that is what it is going to be for now. So yeah, so that's just something I guess to keep in mind or whatever. And yeah, so I definitely want to work on that more as the podcast, as I put out more episodes and stuff. But for now, what we're just going to do is just stick to YouTube and Spotify. So yeah, and then I thought I was thinking about something else, but I forget. So with that, I guess let's just dive into some news. So you got a little bit of news. There's been some stuff going on in the past week. There's been a lot going on in the past month, but there was some stuff going on in the past week. So let's get into it. A little bit of movie stuff. So starting off, the animated Cat in the Hat movie from Warner Brothers has been delayed 9 months to November of 2026. The film was originally slated to release in February, and we got our first trailer, I guess, 1 to 2 months ago, maybe a month or two, something like that. And the film was slated for a February 2026 release, and now it is coming out in November of 2026. So I haven't really found a reason why, but honestly, this is a movie I'm half excited for, half thinking it's going to be kind of stupid. This isn't one I'm anticipating. It's one that's going to be it's going to be oh, this movie's coming out, why not go watch it? So yeah, so that's really it. Let's see. K-pop Demon Hunters wins the weekend over Weapons with $18 million. That's kind of our box office news for the weekend as well. I actually did get to see K-pop Demon Hunters in theaters. I saw it on a 9 o'clock showing Sunday night, which, as I'm filming, would have been last night. But I saw it at 9 o'clock for two reasons. One, because I didn't want to see it any earlier, because I didn't want there to be, I wanted to see a later showing because I didn't want there to be really as many kids watching it and singing along and stuff, because I wanted to hear the movie on the big screen, not a bunch of 12-year-old girls screaming their hearts out. So I was actually surprised. My theater, there were a lot of kids there, but none of them were singing, or at least none that I heard. So, and none of them were dancing or anything either. I think they were all just sitting and watching. So yeah, it was kind of an interesting thing. And the movie in theaters was pretty good. It was really cool. I do want to mention this too because I was thinking about this after watching it because when this was announced it was coming to theaters, I was really hoping that it would be coming to some premium formats, but I'm pretty sure, I don't know if it was exclusive to Regal, but I'm not 100% sure. It might have been other theaters, but at least all the theaters in my area that were playing this movie were Regal. And personally, I'm not a huge fan of Regal. I think, while still not perfect at AMC, I think it definitely runs a lot better there in terms of just the theaters themselves, the pre-show stuff, how everything is put together. I think it's a lot better at AMC, even though it's still not perfect either way. But and I think just AMC has better theaters as well. But I really wanted to see this movie in some kind of premium format, not even like IMAX. Like, I wanted to see this in like a Dolby theater, like even just an AMC smaller scale Dolby one. And I don't know exactly how this works. I'm not an expert in all this stuff, but I just feel like just thinking about it, like it makes sense when you think about it when it comes to this movie being in theaters because it wasn't made for IMAX or Dolby. It wasn't optimized for those formats because it wasn't made for theaters. It was made for Netflix. It was made to be streamed on TVs, not, Dolby IMAX screens. So I think that's kind of why it wasn't in there. I do also know like Regal, at least like all of the ones that are in like any like my I guess general area or whatever, like my I don't know whatever. The it's only IMAX I think. There I do live like 45 minutes away from like an actual 70 millimeter IMAX. I think that is. Oh no. All right, we're good. I might cut that out. Okay, we're good. My thing got unplugged, but I think we're good now. Okay, sorry. Um, anyway, so there is a Regal that's like 45 minutes away from me that does have a 70 millimeter IMAX theater, which I'm pretty sure is the biggest, is one of among like the largest IMAX theaters in at least I think in the world. I think that's the biggest one. And then so I think that's the only one anywhere near me except the one in I think there's one in Philly that's has an IMAX in it. But all of the ones that are like near me to like just close to me that aren't like super far away don't have those kind of things. It's the AMCs near me that have the bigger format, that have like the special formats. And but I think for me, the thing with the Dolby thing is that I feel like even if this movie needed to be made bigger, like even if they just made it bigger, even if it looked a little bit worse, I think because it's an animated movie that's not trying to be super like realistic like Disney movies, which of course we'll get into that later. But I think for that, even if the visuals, or if even just the movie gets a little bit blurrier or something, and I think the visuals will still look decent, but it's the audio that I really want. Hearing those songs in a Dolby theater would be awesome. So, fortunately, that's not what happened, but I think that would have been still cool either way. But either way, it was cool seeing it in a theater at all. So that was pretty cool. All right, moving on. Gaming news. Let's talk about Gamescom. There were a lot of announcements. I'm only going to be talking about a select couple that kind of stood out to me. So first of all, this was one of the craziest things I've like ever seen as a Nintendo fan. The Indiana Jones and the Golden Circle was announced for Switch 2 in 2026. The fact that we now live in a generation where a trailer for a game is hyped up only for it to be a reveal trailer that the game is coming to a Nintendo system is something I never expected to happen ever in my life. I mean, they literally had an entire trailer just to reveal that the game was coming to Switch too, which I think is insane. I honestly don't know a lot about this game. I remember seeing the trailer, but I kind of forgot about it. I didn't even realize it already came out. But it is out, and I think it's getting pretty good reviews, so I might check it out. Might be something I check out. I don't really know. It might be an expensive one. I might be looking more towards the first party stuff there, but you never know. Some bigger news for me: new Lego Batman game, Lego Batman: Legacy of the Dark Knight, coming in 2026. That game is coming to a bunch of platforms, including Switch 2. And that is what I'm really, really excited for. I am such a, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm such like a Lego game, I just love Lego games. Like, I'm trying to think of the word for it, but I feel like Lego games have I've just always had a soft spot for them. I still own Lego City Undercover and the Lego Movie video game, both on the Wii U. And I also own the Lego Marvel Superheroes game on Switch, which I never play, but I never play any of them anymore. But yeah, Lego games, honestly, Lego games go so hard. Like, they really do. They're just such fun games. I remember seeing in, I guess it was 2022, when Nintendo put out those Wii U and 3DS Memories apps, or that website. My Wii U, third most played game was Lego City Undercover, which shocked me. I was like, wow. And so that was kind of interesting to see. That was something pretty interesting. Lego City Undercover being my third most played game ever on the Wii U. So I think that's still the case. I did play a bit of Color Splash last year, of course, but I still don't think it compares. I think those games are in the 100 hours. So, something interesting. Let's see. Hollow Knight Silksong release date finally revealed for September 4th. Honestly, Hollow Knight is one of those backlog games that I have. I got it a couple years ago because it was just a game that, was beloved by the community. And it's such a cheap game too. I forget how much it is, but it is really cheap. So I was like, why not? So I barely played it, though. I've played a very, very little bit of it. And I do kind of want to go back to it just to check it out because of how great the reviews are. I would like to go back to it. I would like to try it. So Silksong, I actually went back. I was curious when this game was originally announced. It was announced, what I heard, in 2019, and we finally are getting a release date. For actually just next week, which is pretty crazy. So as far as I've heard, that is the case. So that's the big news for me for Gamescom. Let's moving on to Kirby Air Riders reveals a ton of gameplay in exciting but overlong direct announced for a November release. This was one of the most interesting directs I've ever watched. So this one, I have never played Kirby Air Ride, nor do I know a lot about it. I know very little about the game. And I just felt like watching the direct, I felt like I needed to actually know parts of the game. I struggled to follow along with it, and it's so long too. 40 minutes for a game, for a direct. I don't know. I mean, I think... it's hard to say if Smash is different because I feel like that one was long too when Sakurai did the Smash Directs because I think those were 30, 40 minutes as well. But I will say I remember those Directs actually having a lot of content to show, whereas I felt like this one they just kind of were going over kind of stupid stuff, honestly. Sakurai tried to make everything sound interesting, but there was some really weird stuff. And I felt like they kept jumping around and it didn't really make sense and I was just getting confused. I am still excited for the game. I think just to me, a Kirby racing game just sounds really fun. So I am going to get it either way, but I left the direct a little bit but you know what? Whatever, it's fine. we're good. All right, so let's see. And then another gaming one. Sean Layden, former head of PlayStation, describes Nintendo as, quote, more in touch with their fan base during the COVID-19 pandemic. This is just a small little headline I saw. Thought was kind of interesting. A PlayStation person saying Nintendo is more in touch with their fans than PlayStation. So that was kind of interesting to see. I would definitely say Nintendo is more in touch with their fans. Oh my God, my voice just cracked like crazy. Nintendo, I would say, is more in touch with their fans, but they don't give in when it comes to their fans asking for things. So yeah, that you can look at that either way. Okay, some baseball news. So a couple little, these are more Phillies news, but I think that's the big stuff going on. So Zach Wheeler out for the 2025 season. Huge loss for the Phillies. I think that was kind of expected over the last week. We kind of expected something like that would happen. And so yeah, unfortunately, his Cy Young caliber season comes to an end, and he is out for the year. I really hope he does throw out a first pitch in the postseason. I think that would be huge, just like they did with Rhys Hoskins, and I do think they are going to do it. But we'll see. Right, and finally, our last news headline: Phillies are set to play the Twins in Iowa next year in the first Field of Dreams game since 2022. This was announced, I guess, 2 days ago, and I saw this in the morning, and I thought I was sleeping still. I thought I was dreaming, and I thought I was looking at a fake headline, but no. Phillies are indeed going to be playing the Twins in the first Field of Dreams game in 4 years. So I'm very excited for that. Field of Dreams, I love that movie very much. And I feel like the Field of Dreams games are always fun. Such a creative experience, such a fun game. So first of all, I'm just glad they're bringing it back, and especially that the Phillies are going to be in it. Super cool. So that is so that's our news for the week, I guess. All right, so let's get into let's move on. Talk about some movies. So let's start with we don't have a lot to talk about before we get into our topic. Movies segment. We are talking about Sony Animation and how I think they are doing so much. Why I think they're doing so much better than Disney this decade. And most recent watch, I haven't actually gotten to a lot of movies this week. I didn't watch anything new other than, I guess, K-pop Demon Hunters in theaters. But regarding anything new, I did not see anything. I still have a list of movies I would like to watch. Although, if you're watching this, if you want to, give me some suggestions, I'll happily take movie suggestions. I kind of am open to anything. So, I mean, I love K-pop Demon Hunters. That's interesting thing. So so nothing new to talk about movie wise. I still need to see Weapons. I really, really want to see that. There's some other horror movies I want to watch as well. There's Companion on HBO. There is, I think HBO also has Final Destination Bloodlines, which I kind of want to check out. Never seen the Final Destination movies, but it's getting decent reviews. I kind of want to check it out. I think it might be fun. And I think there's one more, but I'm forgetting. I'm definitely not watching the Annabelle, though, the new Conjuring movie. That's the only one I won't watch. I will watch Five Nights at Freddy's. That movie's fine. There's nothing bad about that one, but I'm not watching Scary Dolls. That's it. All right, we're going off topic. Let's talk about Sony Animation. So I want to first talk about, I'm going to search Sony Animation movies. I'm going to pull up the Wikipedia page here and talk about the animated movies that they've had. So let's see, starting with Open Season, Surf's Up. There's Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, a ton of Open Season movies for some reason. The Smurfs movies, which were terrible. Hotel Transylvania movies, which other than 3 are also terrible. Let's see. so many open season movies for some reason. The Emoji Movie, which is like the worst animated movie like ever. And then, yeah. It's just like there's very few in terms of like actually animated, because this one also, like Sony Animation also has some other movies there in terms of my Google just froze. In terms of like animated stuff and live action stuff with animated elements, like Goosebumps movies that have the CGI animated like villains and creatures and stuff. I think in terms of just the animated stuff, it's just been terrible. I mean, honestly, the live action stuff's not been great either, but I think just really, other than like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and like I said, the Hotel Transylvania 3, I feel like everything there is really just, it's really just crap, honestly. It's just not, they're just not interesting. It's like, but honestly, it's like the Disney difference that, you kind of talk about, the Disney Pixar difference, where those movies are meant for both kids and adults. They have really great lessons for adults, very emotional stories, just really great storytelling in general, very creative concept. And then for kids, they of course have such vibrant animation, and they such fun, iconic, lovable characters. Whereas like everything else that's not Disney and Pixar is stuff like this from Sony, which are just, cheap, not very good storytelling. They're just kind of like cash grabs almost, because they're kids movies and they know kids are going to want to see them because it's animated things that can move and talk. So it's just nothing interesting. And then you go to December 14th, 2018. I actually remember before this, maybe like a year before, my dad showed me a trailer for this cool animated Spider-Man film that they were making. And I remember seeing it. I was like, oh, that looks pretty cool. It looks like it might be a neat movie, but, we'll see. Holy crap. Did the tables turn after this movie? Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse comes out in December of 2018, and that is still called one of the best animated movies of the last, 10 years. Like, it is at the top, basically. It is such a great movie. It is so... And part of the reason I love that movie, and part of the reason most people love that movie, is because of its animation. Disney and Pixar, for literally, since their inception, have been going for hyper-realistic... Not hyper-realistic, I guess that's more like CGI, but just realistic animation. And every movie makes it look more and more realistic. That's what it is, and it looks fantastic. It's super well done animation. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was the first movie that said, we're going to try something different. We're not going to go for the crazy realism. We're going to go for more stylish animation. And I feel like you can look at this kind of thing in two ways, where it's like the animation from Pixar looks very good, but then this action, it just looks really realistic. But then Spider-Man is like, if you want realism, make it live action. You know what I mean? Like, this is animation. You can do more things than just make it look like live action. So Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse has such amazing, unique, comic booky animation. It looks like a full-on comic book sprung to life. It is such an amazing experience to witness. So, yeah, Sony just knocks it out of the park. But I feel like it's easy to look at that and say it's Spider-Man. It's an animated Spider-Man film that does something different. And of course, you have Phil Lord and Christopher Miller behind it. Everything they make is amazing for the most part. So it's okay, so cool. Sony has their little thing, and they put it with Marvel, and they make this great movie. And that is not the case. That is not at all what happened, because of course, literally after this date, everything changes, and the tables turn drastically. So I'm just gonna go movie by movie, honestly. I don't know why this. Oh my God, why does this keep freezing? I'm just gonna go movie by movie. I can kind of name all of these, I think. So after Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, in 2019, we get the Angry Birds movie 2. I was not a huge fan of the original Angry Birds film, but I thought the second film was actually kind of decent. I thought it was fun. I thought it had some cool characters. I thought it had some neat moments. And I think it's just a fun movie just in general. So, yeah, it's like a decent movie. It's not the worst thing you could watch, honestly. So that is the Angry Birds movie 2. Finally, the sun freezes. Next up, then we go into the 2020s, and they literally start this decade off with like insane cinema, and it starts with Mitchell's vs. the Machines, on Netflix. Basically, right after COVID, you get, or kind of during COVID. Honestly, it was like the year after COVID. It was still like pandemic was still, of course, the pandemic. And they released this movie called The Mitchells vs. Machines on Netflix. And I mentioned this a couple of episodes ago in my favorite animated movies list, that this is one of the last 5-10 years, this is probably my favorite animated movie. It's such an amazing movie, such likable, unique characters. It does a brilliant job of mixing a very realistic, relatable conflict and story with this really fun AI overtaking premise, and it mixes the two perfectly. It blends them perfectly, and it's such a great way of I forgot what it's called. It's called I'm forgetting the name now. It's called the literary nonfiction or something like that, where it's a realistic story with an element of fiction that kind of makes the story kind of, interesting almost, makes it more unique. And it's and that's exactly what this movie is. It's a perfect example of that. It is no movie really in the last really just ever has made me love it so much that it made me rewatch it 5 times in a row. I think probably more than that. In a weekend after I watched it, I just kept watching it on loop because it was so good. Such a great movie. Phenomenal. And then it only gets better, kind of. So the next couple of movies I never saw Wish Dragon or Vivo, but those were pretty big on Netflix. And then Transformania. I don't know why I can't say that. I never watched this either, but this movie I've heard stinks. And then Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse comes out in 2023. And I don't know if I'm one of the few that would say this, but I don't know how good of or how common of a thought this is, or how common of a opinion this is. That's a word I was looking for. But I actually thought Across the Spider-Verse was better than Into the Spider-Verse. And of course I just spent 5 minutes just praising Into the Spider-Verse, and I'm saying that this film was better. And I mean, I feel like that's how it is so far. You have Spider-Man, Mitchell's is better, and then honestly Across the Spider-Verse might be better in my opinion. I mean, it's such a brilliant movie, such a phenomenal action movie, even more stylish comic booky animation that's so appealing, so you just see that animation and you're like, I'm hooked. You know what I mean? Just the animation alone hooks you for the entire thing. Just amazing movie. I'm so excited for Beyond the Spider-Verse. And then you have, of course, this year, K-Pop Demon Hunters on Netflix, blows up Netflix, blows up the charts, blows up the music charts with its soundtrack. Such another fantastic animated movie. So that is Sony. I mean, honestly, other than that 3 movie stretch in 21 and 22 after Mitchell's, before Spider-Man, it's kind of just whatever movies. I will say though that compared to what was happening before these movies, in the era of open season, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs and the original Hotel Transylvania films. I would say of this decade, Transformania is probably the only one that I've seen gets meh reviews, like below average. Wish Dragon, let me actually look up, because I never saw either of these movies. Wish Dragon has a 71 on Rotten Tomatoes, and Vivo has a... Oh, great. Of course, it's not going to tell me on this main screen. Rotten Tomatoes. Vivo has a 86. It is certified fresh. So those are two movies that have gotten great reviews, for the most part. And then, of course, Transformation is really the only one in there that's different. But I think that was actually different just in general, because I remember that came out on Prime. Yeah. So that was a little bit different. That was a bit of a... I feel like I don't even act like that's here. But yeah. Now, I'm just to kind of remind myself here, let's take a look at Disney and Pixar. Talk about the movies that they've been putting out over the last how many years. So let's go into the 2020s specifically. I'm going to look at some animated movies from Disney and Pixar, both of them. So, of course, 2019, huge year for Disney. They had Toy Story 4, which I still think is a phenomenal movie. I think just people don't like it really just for existence, but I still think it's a phenomenal movie. And then they ended the year with Frozen 2, which I think is not nearly as good as the first film, but it's still a fun movie, decent film. And then now we go into 2020. So right before COVID, Onward came out from Pixar. I actually do like this film. I think it's a bit underrated. I think it is a fun adventure with a nice twist at the end, but it's nothing too special. I don't know if I'd call it safe like some of the recent Pixar movies, or more recent, but I will say it's not anything way too special. It's not like the original movies. Moving on, I'm getting a lot of just not what I'm looking for here. I just searched up all the movies. Let's see, Soul. I guess there was no like animated Disney animation movies in 2020. All right, well in 2020 at the end of the year we got Soul. This is really the only like amazing film in my opinion of what we got this decade. I love this movie. It's probably my favorite movie of the decade, other than Mitchell's. Although, honestly, for me, those two movies are, like, right there with each other. They're, like, neck and neck. All right, 2021, Disney had a good showing. Raya and the Last Dragon, I saw this once. I do remember watching it, and I remember it was a very good movie. And I, honestly, from what I remember, I feel like it is pretty underrated, especially since later that year, of course, we got Encanto, which, of course, got great reviews. But, everyone knows my thoughts on Encanto, so I'm not even going to go into it. I think I talked about it in that couple podcasts ago when I was talking about animated movies, so I won't go into it. But yeah, the movie stinks. But Raya and the Last Dragon, I do remember got some pretty good reviews as well. And then Pixar represented that year with Luca. That was the first movie that really did feel like it was playing it safe. A pretty simple story, nothing too groundbreaking, but it was still a fun movie. Now let's go into after that. 2022 starts with Turning Red. And, this is definitely an interesting film for many reasons. I'm trying to look here at something else because I'm trying to think of something, but you know what? I'm just going to forget it. But anyway, Turning Red was what Pixar had to start 2022. I think this is a decent movie. I don't think it is amazing, in my opinion. I think this is one of the more like audience, it depends on the audience really. I think this is definitely not a movie for me, and while I still think it is a fun movie, it's still 100% watchable. It's not quite what I wanted, but honestly I feel like this is the last Pixar movie up to this point that was an original movie that really felt like it was taking risks, which is interesting. That year, this is another Disney movie that I completely forgot. I don't know why it's not on this Wikipedia list, but we also that year got Strange World from Disney. I remember it was an interesting film. I remember it was fun, but I don't remember it being anything way too special. I remember it had a cool twist, but yeah, I don't remember this movie being anything more than just like it was forgettable. It's almost like Disney's the Good Dinosaur. Nothing too special. Not a bad movie, but just pretty forgettable. And then, of course, there was... I feel like this is another movie we don't really need to talk about. I don't know if I've actually talked about this much in general, Lightyear, my thoughts on Lightyear. I'll talk about it real quick because Lightyear is absolute trash. It is my least favorite Pixar movie by a long shot. It is like, I hate that movie so much. It's so bad. And then, so I think that's all I need to say about that. Here's Strange World. I don't know why it says November, because I thought that came out in March, but I guess not. Okay. All right. Anyway, 2023, we had Elemental from Pixar, and this is another movie that was like okay. I think it's still a fun watch. I actually watched it just a few months ago, like around when I saw Luca or Elio for the first time, and I thought that it was better than I remembered, but it still was like just okay. Like it's definitely not. It's another one that's just not groundbreaking. Its characters are like likable, but not anything way too special. And I think honestly, in my opinion, I do think the setting was a little bit like not utilized to its full potential, if that makes sense. So that's my thoughts on that. And then you have ended the year with Wish. I never saw this movie, but this got some pretty bad reviews. I think this for the most part got panned. And then in 2024, Inside Out 2, a sequel that personally I didn't think was better than the original. Still a great movie, but that's pretty much it for me. And then Disney ended the year with Moana 2, another sequel, but this one I really just did not care for. I thought it was very just whatever. I kind of forgot it came out when I watched it for the first time. I was like, well, yeah, I forgot this movie came out. Why not watch it? And that is 2024. This year so far, we haven't gotten any like fully animated 3D Disney movies. We do have Zootopia 2 later this year. But Pixar, we did get Elio, another safe, not too like groundbreaking Pixar movie. Honestly, except for just a couple of movies, there's really nothing here that was bad. I think, but there's also only a couple movies that were good. And I think it's when you look at it like that, where this decade has not been Disney's thing. Where I feel like just in the 2000s, even in the 2010s, it was Disney, 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 Disney. I mean, they were ruling the box office. They were ruling the critics scores, I guess, whatever you want to call it. They were just like on fire with every single movie they made. Every single one became a cult classic. It felt like every single animated movie like award was to Pixar or Disney. I mean, seriously, like every single year it was to one of those two. And now Pixar's last animated feature award was in 2020, as far as I can remember. Yeah, 2020 with Soul. And in 2021 was, I think, Disney's last with Encanto. That's like 5 years ago. I mean, that's literally 5 years ago was the last time Disney, just in general, Disney won Best Animated Feature, when for a time they were winning every single award, like basically every single year. Like Best Animated Feature. Let's take a look. Best Animated Sure. So, taking a look back at every single movie. So, I'm not going to talk about every single movie, but starting off in 2001, and then since 2001, here's the years that Disney or Pixar won: 03, 04, 07, 08, 09, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19, 20, and 21. That is like every single year. The only times that Disney did not win was with Shrek in 2001, Spirited Away in 2002, and then after that, Wallace and Gromit: Curse of the Were-Rabbit won in 2005. Pixar did not have a movie in 2005. Pixar didn't have one in 2005. I don't remember what Disney had. And then 06 was Cars, which was, not going to win. But then literally every single year after that, it's something. Rango, Disney had, or Pixar had Cars 2 in 2011, so it makes sense. Wasn't even nominated. Oof. And then, let's see, literally every single year after that until Spider-Man in 2018. So that is super telling. It's insane, because that's 3 straight years now that a Disney movie has not won an award. And it looks like, again, they're not going to win this year. And it's like unless Zootopia 2 is amazing, they're not winning this year. Elio certainly isn't. K-pop Demon Hunters alone is better than Elio by a lot. And that's just the thing. So now we really get into my talk about this. I have been a Disney, especially Pixar fan my entire life. It's part most of the reason why I love animated movies as much as I do, because I grew up with Pixar. I grew up with Disney. I love those movies very, very, very much. I've said it before, Coco is my favorite movie of all time. Up, Toy Story 3, and Inside Out are on my top 10 of favorite movies ever made. And I just love these movies very much. They are very special to me. But I'm not going to just not say that they are still making good movies. Because even though they're making good movies, Sony is the one who is making the amazing movies. Sony, I feel like, is in their era like Pixar was in the 2000s and 2010s. Same with Disney, where they were making hit after hit. Every single movie was good. It felt like there was four straight amazing movies, then a stinker, I guess. 4 straight great movies, stinker. You know what I mean? Which is an incredible rate. And then now it's 4 stinkers and then a good movie. And just a good movie, a decent one. Whereas Sony has now had Spider-Man, 2 phenomenal Spider-Man movies, Mitchell's vs. Machines, 2 more decent Netflix movies that are still pretty fun, pretty good movies with good reviews, and then K-pop Demon Hunters this year, which is blowing up the streaming and music charts. So it's insane, because Disney, and it's really, the animation alone, I feel like, is a metaphor for what has been happening with Disney and Pixar. They are still going for that realism. They are still going with that animation style, whereas Sony has shifted over to more unique, more visually, just appealing stuff that's still realistic, but much more artsy. And it's animation. Like I said, it's animation is animation. If you want realism, go live action. If you want artsy, uniquely visual films, go animation. That's what animation is. It is art coming to life, not realism just designed instead of using an actual camera. It is that's what I truly believe. So while I can appreciate the realism of Disney and Pixar movies, it's Sony who is knocking it out of the park with visual treats, honestly, and how they are designing their movies. And I feel like Disney has just been for years with those, like just the realism in animation, and it's just you look at it and you think like it looks good, but that's about it. You know what I mean? Like it's nothing too amazing because it looks like real life. It's realistic. It's realism and not artsy. So yeah, I felt like I talked about the movies individually way too much. So I would like to move on, but I feel like I've made my point clear. It just sucks because like the only thing Disney and Pixar did to make Pixar, the only thing that they did to make their movies look more artsy or whatever, or just different and more unique, is like the Studio Ghibli like character designs with Luca turning red, and honestly pretty much everything after that. And in my opinion, it does not look like, it kind of looks horrendous in my opinion. It doesn't look great. It's just like whatever. And I think it worked for Luca, and then you didn't need it in turning red. And Disney Wish is just, I mean the visuals there, I don't know what they're trying to do there, but all right. Had my sip of water. Talked a lot about animated movies there. Let's get into gaming. Let's take a break of talking about movies. Let's talk about some gaming stuff. So, gaming. We have another interesting topic here for gaming as well. So here we go. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think I missed something in my news segment. Did I? Or did I just... I don't think it copied over. Oh, I just completely missed it. Oh, okay. So I had a news headline in here that I just completely missed, I guess. Or maybe it just wasn't in there yet, it didn't load, I don't know. But the news headline was Nintendo Direct rumors resurface with multiple sources speculating September 12th as the date for next month's showcase. So that kind of is what we're going to talk about with the Mario 40th anniversary and how that relates to the Direct. But specifically, the 5 things that I would like to see and what I predict we will see from Mario. Starting with that, talk a little bit about current play. Like with movie segment, I don't have a lot to talk about here. I just finished Last of Us last week. This week I haven't really played a lot of new stuff. I haven't really played anything like much at all. I haven't had a lot of time to play games in the past week. But I did play, I started last night. I would like to play more of it this week. I started Chibi Robo because that is now on the GameCube NSO app for Switch 2. I've played it very little bit, maybe like 15-20 minutes. And it was definitely an interesting game. I had no idea what it was going into it. I just had heard of it. I'd seen it, but that's it. I'd never actually seen gameplay of it. I didn't know what it was like, about, even what genre it was. So, but yeah, it's definitely an interesting game. I'm excited to play more, but yeah, that's interesting. Ooh, that was a good neck crack. All right, so let's just dive in. So, like I said with that headline, there's been a lot of Nintendo rumors going on with the next Direct, because we are in the last week of August, and this is usually when the speculation starts for Nintendo Direct, and especially this year is the 40th anniversary of the Mario series. Started with Super Mario Bros. On the NES in 1985, September 1985. It's been 40 years, and there's a lot of rumors going around about the Mario Direct. So, oh no, my mic just came out again. Hello? There we go. I don't know why oh my god, I keep messing that up. I apologize for continuously doing that. My cord keeps coming out of my microphone, and yeah. So, but anyway, back to Mario. This isn't really what I wasn't going to talk about too much about Direct predictions, but I will say this: a Mario 40th anniversary. I honestly don't think we are going to get a 40th anniversary Direct like we did in 2020, simply because we didn't have any Directs that year, and I think people needed to see something. They wanted something, really. They just wanted some kind of a Direct, and they wanted us, and just Nintendo had a lot of Mario stuff brewing, so it made sense for them to do that. We are not in that state right now. We have an actual Nintendo Direct, honestly, like most definitely coming this month. So I don't think we need a Mario 40th Anniversary Direct. And like I said, I forget if it was a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, but like I said, whenever I think we are going to get a Mario segment to end a Nintendo Direct like we did with Legend of Zelda for its 35th anniversary during the E3 2021 Direct. So let's get into my 5 hopes. I have 5 hopes, predictions for what I am expecting and want to see Mario related released, even if it's not branded with 40th anniversary, like just revealed in the next couple of months surrounding Mario in general. So here's the 5 things I want to see. So, all right, so starting with number 1. This is one, I guess you wouldn't say it's like been a long rumored thing, but it is the Super Mario Galaxy 2 remaster. This is kind of more of a prediction. I think with Mario, I do think we are going to get some kind of a remaster, remake, whatever. And I think trying to go a bit more realistic, because it's like, I mean, if really what I want is either a Paper Mario All-Stars collection or a Mario 64, something like that, complete remake for the Switch 2. But honestly, I don't think we're ever going to get those. I mean, even if we get the Paper Mario All-Stars, which is definitely more realistic, I don't think we'd get that now. I think we'd get that in, 10 years' time. So, but, and then the Mario 64 full remake would be awesome, but Nintendo will never do that. They would never devote their resources, as good as that would sell. So I think the more realistic thing, I think it would be cool for them to put Mario Galaxy 2 on Switch 2. I am one of those people who think that Galaxy 1 is still better than Galaxy 2, but I do still love Galaxy 2, and I think it would be fun to play it on another platform, especially since now with the Wii U eShop down permanently, the only way to play Mario Galaxy 2 now is on an original Wii, which does kind of stink. So I think it would be pretty cool if they brought it back to the Switch 2. And I feel like that's not even I feel like that wouldn't even be that hard to do. You know, it's already just update it to HD, or I guess 4K. And I think that's all you really need. Like, there's not a lot you can do to it to make it even better, because it already is a phenomenal game. So, the only question I'm wondering is, are games now going to be called like Super Mario Galaxy 2 4K, or are they just going to be called Mario Galaxy 2 HD? Because technically I think 4K is HD, but it would be cool if they said 4K. But you know what? Whatever. You can say whatever you want. So yeah, I'm definitely hoping for a Mario Galaxy 2 remaster. And I think just for me, I do own Mario Galaxy 2. I bought it a couple years ago. I think I bought it on eBay or something for the Wii. But I think it would be cool to go back to it, but on Switch 2. As much as I still play my Wii now, I think it would be cool to go back to it on Switch 2. Next up, we have... This is one I feel like we haven't really... You know what? Honestly, I'm going to kind of talk about this in a different order, because I want to talk about 2 of these next to each other. So next up, not talking about games, but we have the Mario movie. So 2 things. The official name reveal and the trailer announcement. I am one of those people who thinks that the leaks are all wrong, and I just don't think the next Mario movie is going to be called Super Mario World. I don't think it's going to be called that, and I would like to know what it's actually called. Even if it's called something along those lines, I just want to know the official name, you know? And a trailer announcement would be cool. Right now, I am under the impression I'm going to try to not watch trailers this time, because I've only done that for a couple movies, but it actually was really cool going into those movies not knowing anything. But I think for the Mario movie, I remember the first movie just because of how much those 3 trailers showed and how much they're, just in terms of, how short the movie was. I would like to go into this one not knowing nearly as much, because I think doing that with the original movie would have made me enjoy it so much more because I didn't know a lot of what was in it. So I would like to do that for this one, but I would still like to know the name reveal and, for everyone else's sake, announcement of the first trailer, which I think is going to be around the same time in like October of this year, regardless of whether it's at New York Comic Con again or something like that. I do hope that is what happens. So yeah, so that's another thing. The Mario movie, I do think we are going to see or hear about that. I think that just name is going to be mentioned. So that is that. Next up, I'm going to go a little bit more in depth with this. I was not playing this originally, but I actually have a full concept of what I hope and think this could be. And it's about the Mario Kart World DLC. So I have been thinking about the DLC for this game, if DLC ever happens, and what it could be. And I have been thinking of this thing for since the game basically came out. So here's my idea. Here's my idea to add more to Mario Kart World. Here we go. I think the way the DLC should work is that you add a second world to the game. So now you have the two worlds. You have the main world of the base game, and then you have this bonus world. Now, this bonus world you can just access in general, maybe in the map, or in the actual gameplay. Maybe there's like bridges that connect the two maps together. I don't know. Or you could just go to a menu and just have to warp there. But two separate worlds, and the second world just free roaming there could be like completely free. Like that's just like a free update that's added, and it's more adding stuff to that world that is different. So I'm kind of envisioning this like a Super Smash Brothers Ultimate thing. I think that it would be cool if you get the world for free, but you pay for the track separately, like the Fighters Pass in Super Smash Brothers Ultimate. I'm actually going to look this up because I don't remember what all the prices were, but so let's see. Smash Bros. Ultimate Fighters Pass. So the Fighters Pass was, of course, there was like the huge thing with the Challenger packs. So I guess this is the first. I don't know if this was the first one. I'm looking at this one. One with Joker, Hero, Banjo-Kazooie, Terry, and Byleth was $24.99. That was 5 characters for $25. And so that was volume 1, and then there was a volume 2, and then there's 2. Yeah, there's 2. So yeah, 2. Here's what I'm kind of thinking, and I think they could do something similar with that with Mario Kart World, where you sell packs of courses that you can add to your Mario Kart map. Maybe like packs of 4, like different Grand Prix. Maybe like 3 or 4. And I think those Grand Prix could be like the characters in packs. So I don't know how expensive they would be, but I think it would be something cool. And the way I'm envisioning too is because like Mario Kart Tour, I still play that a little bit. It's fun. Just of course, there's a lot of problems with it, especially with loot boxes and stuff. But it's just kind of fun to play just Mario Kart on my phone, because I don't take my Switch everywhere, of course. So, but the way it works in Mario Kart World is that when a new every 2 weeks, a new cup or whatever begins, a new thing like that. And a bunch of courses are accessible, but there's still ones that will be added and become accessible after a few days. Since that, I think it's Wednesday when they change. So, but the way that they do it is that the cups that you can't play yet, that are you have to wait a couple days before they are unlocked, they have this construction toad saying that this is still under construction. That's what would be cool here. You have the where the tracks are be like construction zones, and then when you buy the track, buy whatever the thing is, that construction zone will turn into a track. I think that would be really cool. I don't know how much the price would be though, because I know that a track alone, especially a Grand Prix, but or a cup. A track alone is much different than just a character in Smash. But I do think that could be something that they get away with. But I don't know. I don't know how many tracks they would add, and I don't know how pricey it would be. But I think it would be cool. Like, you can add more tracks to your game, but it doesn't have to be like you pay one solid amount to get all these tracks. If you only want certain ones, just buy those certain cups. You know what I mean? I think that would work pretty well. And I think it would just be cool to just allow people to drive around the world. Like, there's not a lot there. Like, maybe add some more P-Switch missions. Maybe add some more, like, Peach medallions all over the place. But, and then, of course, if you buy the tracks, you can free roam there, too. They'll have their own question mark panels and, medallions and P-Switches as well. But I think that'd be cool. I think that's one way they could go about it. And honestly, just as a Mario Kart fan, I think that'd be really, really cool to see them do something like that. Especially since, I don't know, when we're getting our next Smash game, I do think it would be cool to see them, like, Super Smash Brothers style reveal these courses over the next, like, year or so. I think that'd be really, really cool. And I would like to see that as a Mario Kart fan. I think that'd be pretty neat. So it's just really just the price, like how many tracks they add and how much they decide to cost them or price them. So that's my thought. But just in general, I do think we are going to see some Mario Kart World DLC to some extent. I really hope we do. And I do think we're going to, if it is real, we're going to see it in the next month. Okay. So let's talk about this. I kind of talked about this, I guess 2 weeks ago when I was talking about like the what year I think we're getting the big Nintendo IPs when they're getting their new games, and it's about Mario, like the main series, Mario main series. So here's what I'm thinking. This is kind of what I mentioned before. I predict that we're not getting 3D Mario next year, or we're getting it like late, like holiday of 2026. But honestly, I don't think we're going to get it next year at all. But what I do think we could see, and what I would like to see, is a new 2D Mario game. So I think we could see 2D Mario gameplay next month, and the reveal that a 3D, or just really just the announcement that a 3D Mario game is in development. Even if they don't share anything, even if it's like Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, which that's what it was at the time. In that Zelda thing that I'm kind of thinking this Mario thing will be like, they showed like sort of clips of the game. I don't remember if that's actually like a cutscene in the game or whatever, but they show a very short, like a pretty short clip. Doesn't give a lot about the game, but and it's not gameplay either. But it just reveals that another game is in development. It didn't even say it was called TOTK. It was just Breath of the Wild sequel is in development. And I think we could get something like that here. I do think that we could get the announcement that a new 3D Mario game is in development. Even if they didn't say what it is, I do think we could see that. I think that'd be pretty cool. So, but I definitely do think we could see 2D Mario come first, and I do think it would be and I do think we could see gameplay as well. That's kind of striking me as a summer release for next year. But, I mean, they showed off Wonder in June 2023, and the game came out, 4 months later? So they really could do anything here, because they could release the game in the first quarter of the year next year. So, but we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But I definitely do hope and I really do just expect that we're going to get 2D Mario gameplay and a 3D Mario announcement. I don't think we are going to see a 3D Mario game yet, or at least extensive footage or even gameplay of it yet, because I just think that it's not ready yet, especially with Donkey Kong just wrapping production or development. And I don't know if it's the same team though, but I don't think we're ready to see it yet. And if we are, we're going to see very little of it, because I don't think it's coming out until at the earliest the second half of next year, but probably very late next year or 2027. So those are my 5 predictions for the Mario, whatever we're doing for the rest of this year. 40th anniversary shenanigans. That's what I think we're getting. So yeah, that is my list of my 5 hopes for the Mario 40th anniversary. So now let's move on to some sports stuff. So let's talk geographical realignment. So this is something I mentioned in the last podcast, but I want to talk more about it in this episode because it is a pretty big deal, and it is something that legitimately could happen, especially with how crazy Rob Manfred can get. It could happen. So there's this graphic that's been going around from Fox Sports about a possible how it could look, how the realignment can look, and I'm just going to go through this and talk about it, how it is. So going division by division, these are the teams or the divisions and the teams in them that are expected by or predicted by Fox Sports. So AL Northeast, AL Mid-Atlantic, AL Great Lakes, and AL Southeast are the AL divisions, and the NL ones are NL Midwest, NL Central, NL Southwest, and NL Northwest. So I already don't like the names. All right, so AL Northeast, the prediction is the New York Yankees, New York Mets, Boston Red Sox, and the Philadelphia Phillies. When they talk about new rivalries, I mean, this is really not that, because it's two of probably the biggest rivalries in baseball, especially at the moment, in one division. You got, of course, the Yankees and the Red Sox. That's, of course, one of the biggest rivalries in sports in general. But you also have the Phillies and Mets, another pretty big rivalry up there in the list of big rivalries, all in one division. So the Phillies and Mets would stay in the same division, and the Red Sox and the Yankees would stay in the same division. And but of course, those 4 teams would now all kind of be rivals to each other, which is interesting. Phillies and Yankees, I feel like, has never been a big thing, and neither with Phillies and Red Sox. But now that they're in the same division, let alone like league or anything, it's going to be some interesting stuff could happen. AL Mid-Atlantic, we have the Baltimore Orioles, the Washington Nationals, Pittsburgh Pirates, and the Cleveland Guardians. This is another interesting one. I do like the Orioles and Nationals one because those are 2 teams that are pretty close to each other. I'd say they're only maybe an hour out from each other at most. So that makes sense. And then Pittsburgh and Cleveland are also fairly close to each other as well, I think. I think maybe those are like an hour, 2 hours, maybe more. But those are still pretty close. But I think the big ones there, just in proximity stuff, would be Nats and O's and the Bucks and Guardians, pretty much. Because of how close they are to each other. But I think either way, that could be an interesting division. But I think at the moment, those are all just kind of mid teams. But of course, that's just in the moment. The AL Great Lakes teams, these are all teams that are very close to each other, so I think this could be interesting. You have the Minnesota Twins, the Detroit, I'm blanking on the logos right now, Detroit Lions, the Milwaukee Brewers, and the Toronto Blue Jays. So this is another interesting one. I think these are all the northern teams, and this makes sense too. Blue Jays, especially with the Blue, I feel like the Blue Jays and the Tigers are super close to each other, and then right around, like, I forget which lake it is, but like right around one of the lakes is Milwaukee and the Twins. Honestly, I feel like it's surprising that Milwaukee wouldn't stay with the Cubs or just a Chicago team, but I think they want the Chicago teams together, and they have other rivalries too. But yeah, that's something interesting. But I think either way, this could be an interesting division. Staying up north, it would be interesting. Next up, we have the AL Southeast. So that would be the Atlanta Braves, Miami Marlins, the Tampa Bay Rays, and the possible expansion team being Charlotte. So this is so of course putting the Miami team or the Florida teams makes sense. And And then putting the Braves in there, of course, makes sense. And then Charlotte's not too far away either. So if it is Charlotte, I think that definitely makes sense for it to be in this kind of division. And I think this could be another interesting one as well. But I just don't think these are the teams that, I don't know if these would form good rivalries, to be honest. I just don't see that really. But you never know. I mean, Braves and Marlins have been divisional rivals for forever now, but it's, they're just not, they've never really been rivals, I feel like. And I don't know if that's going to change. So we'll see what happens there. But makes sense putting the Florida teams together, definitely. And I think it would be a good one for a potential Charlotte team. Heading over to the NL, we start off with the NL Midwest. So this one is the Chicago Cubs, Chicago White Sox, and the St. Louis Cardinals and Cincinnati Reds. I feel like just looking at this might be the farthest proximity-wise, maybe. I feel like this is a little bit farther than some of the AL ones, but Cubs and Sox definitely makes sense. But I just feel like the Cubs and St. Louis and the Cubs and the Reds are already rivals to some extent, especially Cubs and Cardinals. I feel like that's a more well-known, like more, forever rivalry, I guess. Like that's always been there. So, putting them together kind of makes sense. But, of course, we're talking about new rivalries, so none of this makes sense. But yeah, I think that's still fairly close in proximity, but, that's kind of it. NL Central, we have the Colorado Rockies, Kansas City Royals, the Texas Rangers, and the Houston Astros. Definitely keeping Texas and Houston together makes sense. And then putting the Royals up there also makes sense, and the Rockies. Rockies, I think, makes more sense being with these teams than with the California West Coast teams. So I definitely do think that is one that makes sense. But by the way, just looking at this is also the only division that is the same name as a current division, being NL Central. So that's kind of interesting. NL Southwest, I feel like this is kind of a no-brainer, but it's it would be the Dodgers, the Padres, the Angels, and the Diamondbacks. I don't get the thing with the Diamondbacks. That's the only thing that doesn't seem right to me. I think just the Cardinals, I don't know. I feel like that makes more sense. I'm surprised that the Giants are in that division. But I guess they make more sense than the A's. But yeah, I feel like that's another interesting one. I feel, or not the A's, Angels, I guess more the Diamondbacks. But that's another one where it's like Dodgers and San Diego makes sense, but I feel like it makes sense to also have San Francisco in there. So that's a little interesting. And then you just mix the Diamondbacks in there as well with those West Coast teams. So it's another one. And then finally, we have the NL Northwest. This would be the Seattle Mariners, the then probably Las Vegas A's, San Francisco Giants, and the possible second expansion team being a team in Portland, Oregon. I think this is another one that makes sense. I said the whole thing with San Francisco, but I think this does make sense here. I think the A's is a little bit far, but it's not the worst thing ever. I feel like that's kind of what you have to do, though, in terms of that. So that's kind of how that's going to work. And I do feel like that is just, in general, the best that you can do there. So that is our divisions. Those are our potential new divisions from Fox Sports. Of course, these are not the confirmed. Like, this is what it would be if they did change them. But yeah. Honestly, it's like I get it with the travel stuff, but the new rivalry stuff, it's like it doesn't make sense. These are rivalries that have been going around for forever now. And I feel like, yes, the famous ones like the Yankees and Red Sox, Phillies and Mets, Cubs and Cardinals, and the Rangers and Astros, and the Dodgers and Padres. I think those are the ones that, of course, do make sense. Those are some of the more famous rivalries in baseball, probably the biggest rivalries in baseball. And they are still there. So I do think that makes sense to be like that. But at the same time, I also do think that it's just like, I feel like we don't need this. I feel like unless it's just like you play like the teams more just in your general area more, because you still like right now every team plays every team at least once in at least one series. So you're going to be traveling all over the place no matter what. And I just think in general, like, I mean, yes, traveling from Philly to Philly to like Florida. Like, yes, that's farther than if the farthest they'd have to do is travel to Boston, but it's still like, it's not the worst thing ever. So, yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I think keeping them on the same coast or the same just general vertical, I guess, in terms of the country, I think it's just that's it. You know what I mean? That's what makes sense. So personally, I don't think that I don't like this plan, and I do hope that they don't go through with it. Although, if they do, it's not going to be the end of the world. But I mean, this is more football style, I feel like. So, yeah, I mean, now it would be 32 teams and 4 teams in 8 total divisions. So yeah, that's it. So that's my thoughts. I didn't have a ton of thoughts really here, but yeah, it's just such a weird thing to think about, how they could be not only adding 2 more teams but restructuring divisions that have been like this for like decades. I don't know. I personally don't love it, and I think it should be kept the same. I think because also the divisions are these rivalries, there are more that are growing over the years. So it does kind of make sense to a degree to keep these ones because they are starting to grow, like the Phillies and Braves. But at the same time, those are ones that ebb and flow. But and I think that would be the same thing here. But it's like, that's kind of it. There's not a lot here that I like. I feel like it's just whatever, you know what I mean? There's not really much to talk about in my opinion, but yeah, so in terms of that, the only other thing to talk about here, I guess, is the expansion teams. So the ones that are mentioned here, I think these are the 2 like front runners of cities that would get new teams, are Charlotte and Portland. But I think also looking there could be a Tennessee team. I know that's been in the air. I would say Las Vegas, but that's not the case anymore. They're getting a team in the A's. And I think there's one more, but I can't remember what it is. If Tennessee is the team, that could fit right in there with the Southeast team that's in the same region. I don't know what other big cities don't have teams. Actually, I'm going to search it up. Biggest U.S. cities, no MLB team. But now I will say, too, that you could also factor in more Canada teams. Hockey has more Canada teams, but I don't expect it to happen. San Antonio, I guess you could say. San Antonio, I guess you could fit that in with Texas and Houston, and then maybe move out. I guess not really Kansas City, but I guess you could do some things there. I guess you could, in that case, I don't know, because that's more like middle of the country. So I don't know if that exactly would work. I feel like that would be, I mean, yeah, I'm kind of looking at the map now. I don't really think that's a big thing that they could do, but yeah, I think that's, I'm trying to look. Kansas City is in Missouri. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Why am I not, I'm blanking here. So, yeah. So it says San Antonio, Texas, and Austin, Texas as well. There's also Jacksonville, Florida, which could be added in with in that Southeast division, and then Columbus, Ohio, in Ohio. So yeah, that's kind of the case there. There's also Indianapolis as well. So yeah, that's kind of where we are at with the geographical realignment. I do like these now, and I do think these are two cities that make the most sense for getting an MLB team now. So yeah. So I do think that is unfortunately going to be it for my rant on all of these stupid subjects. But anyway, yeah, I think that's gonna do it for this this podcast today. Had a lot of stuff to talk about here, regarding a whole range of different things. So thank you all very, very much for listening to this. Our next episode is planned for September 2nd. It'll be our 6th episode. By the way, I also want to mention, I kind of mentioned structuring changes later or earlier in the video or in the podcast. But I also would like to do some video podcasts for YouTube. I think that would be cool, like video as in like actually like face cam, seeing my face, and stuff. I think that'd be pretty cool. So yeah. And then the last thing I want to talk about before I go is regarding the Nintendo Switch or the Nintendo Direct predictions. So I think maybe, I don't know if I'd do it next week or the week after, but maybe if I don't do it next week, if there is no Direct, I'll do the following week. But yeah, I think I'm going to make a bingo board, and I think I'm just going to talk about the bingo board. I think that'll be my predictions thing. And then I am planning to do a reaction video for whenever that Direct is. So we got some fun stuff planned. But yeah, that's going to do it for today's podcast. Thank you all very much for listening. And yeah, I guess I would say see you again on September 2nd, but this is a podcast, so it's not really going to work that way. But yeah, episode 6 coming next week. Thank you all for listening, and I will, I guess, see you whatever you want to say. So yeah, I hope you have a wonderful, phenomenal rest of your day. And with that, this is the great Ryan from RyansFortress and Megahit Media logging off for the day.